Welcome to Journal Club, where we simplify the science behind the big questions. And today, we're tackling a huge one. What really decides how long you live? Is it all about the genes you were born with, or does the food you put on your plate every day have the final say? You know, we all have that one friend, right? The person who can eat anything and everything and seems perfectly healthy, and we just kind of shrug and say, oh, they've got good genes. It feeds into this idea of genetic destiny, that your health is basically pre-programmed from birth. But is that really the whole picture? How much power do our daily choices actually have to rewrite that story? So let's frame it like this, because I think this is a great way to look at it. Think of your life as a game of cards. Your genetics, that's the hand you're dealt. You don't get a choice. Maybe you get an amazing hand, maybe not so much. But your diet, your lifestyle, that is how you play the hand. For a long, long time, scientists have debated just how much each of these things matter. But a massive new study just published in the top-tier journal Science Advances is putting its cards on the table, and honestly, it's giving us some of the clearest answers yet. Okay, so how on earth did these researchers tackle such a massive question? Well, this wasn't some small, short-term experiment. No, they went big. This was an absolutely epic investigation. And when I say epic, I really mean it. They dove into this incredible resource called the UK Biobank, and analyzed data for, get this, over 100,000 people. 103,649 to be exact. When you're working with numbers this huge, it gives the findings an incredible amount of weight. It means whatever they found, it's very, very unlikely to be just a random fluke. So for more than 10 years, the researchers tracked three really crucial things for every single one of those people. First up, their diet. They basically gave everyone a score based on how well they stuck to 5 different well-known healthy eating plans. You know, things like the Mediterranean diet or the DASH diet. Second, they looked at everyone's DNA and calculated what they called a longevity gene score. Think of it as a single number that sums up whether your genes give you a nudge toward a longer or shorter life. And third, they tracked the most important outcome of all, who was still around. After about 10.5 years, they recorded all the health outcomes, which included 4,314 people who had passed away. All right, so the scene is set. We've got diet scores, we've got gene scores, and we've got mortality data for a population the size of a city. So what was the verdict? In the big matchup of diet versus DNA, who came out on top? Okay, this chart is where it all just clicks into place. It lays out the answer so clearly. So this shows the risk of dying during the study period. Let's walk through it. Over on the far left, you've got the people with a poor diet and an unlucky genetic hand. Not surprisingly, their risk was the highest. But here's where it gets really interesting. Look at that next bar. These are people with good genes but a bad diet. And look at that. Their risk is still really high. Their good genes were not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Now for the most important part. Look at what happens when people with bad genes ate a good diet. Their risk of death dropped a lot. And that right there is the key finding. A healthy diet had the power to seriously push back against a poor genetic starting point. Of course, the absolute best place to be was having both a good diet and good genes. They had the lowest risk of all. But talking about risk can feel a little abstract, right? So the researchers took it a step further and translated these findings into something we can all wrap our heads around. Actual years added to your life. So what does this actually mean for you? Well, for a man who starts eating healthy at age 45, following one of the healthiest diet patterns could mean gaining up to 3 extra years of life compared to guys with the unhealthiest diets. And the results for women were also super impressive. A woman at age 45 who ate the healthiest could see a potential gain of up to 2.3 years. I mean, think about that. We're not talking about a few extra months. We're talking about adding multiple quality years to your life. And that power lies in the choices you're making every day. And hey, if you're finding this breakdown helpful, just taking a quick second to hit the like button and subscribe really helps our channel out. It tells us to make more explainers just like this one. Now, as with any good science, we've got to keep a level head and talk about the limitations. No single study is ever the final word on anything. And to their credit, the authors here were really clear about that. Okay, the biggest one to remember is that old science saying, correlation does not equal causation. What does that mean? Well, because this was an observational study, they were just watching people's habits, it shows a super strong link between healthy eating and living longer. But it can't technically prove that the diet directly caused it. It's possible that other things were going on behind the scenes. And the researchers pointed out a few other things to keep in mind.
First, people had to report what they ate from memory, and, well, we all know how tricky that can be. Second, this study mostly looked at people of European descent, so we definitely need more research to see if these numbers hold up for everybody. And finally, you have to consider that people who eat really healthy might also be doing other healthy things, right? Maybe they exercise more or manage stress better, and those things could also be helping them live longer.
So after all that, when we put the incredible findings from over 100,000 people right next to the honest limitations, what's the big picture message you should really take away from all this? For me, it all comes down to this classic saying. It just perfectly sums up the story this research is telling. Your genes might create a certain predisposition. They might load the gun for certain health outcomes, but it's your lifestyle, especially your diet, that pulls the trigger. Your DNA is not your destiny. This study is some of the most powerful evidence we have that you are not just a passenger on this ride. You're an active participant in your own health story. The food you decide to eat day in and day out gives you a huge amount of say in your own longevity. Thanks so much for joining us at Journal Club. If this got you thinking, you are definitely going to want to catch our next explainer, where we're digging into the fascinating new science on intermittent fasting. We'll see you there.